All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday to everyone. Welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared, and it is October 5th, 2022. Happy Hump Day to those in the chat room. Kind of a classic mention in the afternoon session. So, starting off today, I think game plan is kind of the same, and we'll kind of wrap up our 2008 correlation discussion. We'll probably bring it back as we enter into 2023, or maybe closer to the end of the year. It's not really something you have to bring up very often, but it's a good model and mapping to what's going on currently. And additionally, we'll talk about some short-term trade. I think today is going to be a little bit challenging relative to the past couple of sessions. You'll notice that as I look at the SPX expected move, we did have a significant breach yesterday. And I think overall the marketplace kind of felt it because this is a breach that's occurring on Tuesday. So overall, the option market is pricing volatility incorrectly so far this week. As we look at maybe what's in store for the rest of the week and maybe get a sense of how much more range is the market pricing, I would start by looking at the Friday, October 7th series. And I'd be looking to see, okay, we moved significantly from last Friday's close, but the market is still anticipating about 84 points of SPX movement for the rest of the week. Now that should be based on yesterday's close. And therefore, if you're looking at the close from yesterday, 37.90 near the high of the session, you can plus or minus that 83. And it gives you a sense of if we continue to press higher, the market is anticipating basically another 83 points. If we continue, or if we reverse and we come back inside, moving down 83 points would bring us pretty much on the top side of the weekly expected move. And that's, of course, where we marked it on Friday's close. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation when you get a breach this early, simply because if we're playing short-term volatility and trade, market dynamics typically matter much more than things like fundamentals and even to some degree some of the technical signals. Usually you want to be careful here relative to stepping in too early short, simply because the risk is to the upside at this moment. That's where the pressure is being felt. So just wanted to note that for all of you who are trading SPX or just looking at gaining some edge from this quantitative analysis. And it's something that I think brings value to what we do every day. Not only can we state that things are true relative to the breach, but we can also say what can happen if things continue in a certain direction. We talk about this idea of a rubber band, and the expected move is oftentimes going to be stretched. We've seen plenty of stretches recently with a lot of our breaches, but sometimes it can break. And that breaking mechanic is very powerful, especially on the Friday session. So if I can find my mouse here. Okay. So as I shift over into the SPX, I'll talk about a couple of notes that were kind of placed here from some of yesterday's trade. We'll kind of zoom into that shortly. But just to kind of round out our discussion on the overall 2008 correlation, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of bring us back up to speed here. So one of the notes from yesterday was obviously the similarities in price the similarities in moving average respect and some of the anchoring price activity relative to how 2008 formed and the eventual collapse that was seen in the later half of 2008 into 2009. Now, we talked about those similarities in depth. I think overall, the model here is one to pay attention to. And one of the questions from yesterday was, do we trust the test of the low relative to what's the most technically obvious? And that's, of course, going to correlate with our June lows. Or do we trust the percentage drawdown? And if you recall, this move here and this move here are approximately the same drawdown, albeit this drawdown was a bit steeper relative to the testing of technical levels. It had a little bit more of a downward thrust before seeing any sort of relative upside. I think those concepts are still yet to be determined, but we certainly have a 2-day rally to anticipate moving forward. And ultimately, I want to trust the rally in front of me as opposed to trying to counter it immediately. I want to see, obviously, bears take back control before thinking that this rally is immediately just going to give back. That's usually how a lot of things continue to squeeze or just put pressure on the dominant thesis, which is, of course, we've seen a lot of these short-term rallies get either collapsed, usually on some sort of federal commentary, Fed Reserve commentary, or if anything goes against what is driving this sort of speculative rally off of a technical level. Last thing I'll kind of mention here before we just kind of round it out, notice the price action that occurred in 2008. Whenever the market did bounce, whenever a relative low was established, the bounce itself was not easy. It was not one that is confident in a lot of ways. And I'm kind of anticipating something similar, even though we can continue to move higher. This is why I kind of bring up the idea that the next maybe month or so might not be the easiest market to trade if we see anything like what we saw in 2008. The reason being is, look at this price structure here. If we're assuming we're anywhere near this level, then you'll notice things like high thrust into massive drawdown, up and down, lots of back and forth volatility, and then people will start to claim range, ultimately back testing the engulfing structure that was set up at the lows. Even then, we pushed a little bit higher in price. So it's that cautionary tale of like, who's really in charge inside of a bear flag. And that's a very challenging market to trade if it sets up that way. I think what makes bear flag so interesting, or any flagging structure, is it's consolidative through both price and time. You see the price often correcting, usually in the form of a retracement or pullback. And you also see an extended period of time for that correction to occur. It's not necessarily going to the low and then going straight to the high. There's back and forth as we move through it, with the ultimate posture being that once this breaks, and you can really see the breaking of that channel here, that of course sets up the next wave of downside move. And obviously this would be the most advantageous short to take if the market were to model off of 2008 in the future. The idea that the market would collapse through some other catalyst. So that's kind of what I'm anticipating. That's what I'm looking to have form, and there's a couple reasons why. So I'll kind of leave it there. We'll kind of shift back into our day-to-day trade here. First things first, what's driving a lot of this repricing right now? In some ways, we could talk through the dollar. Now, the dollar had a very steep risk reversal, a counter correction relative to a parabolic move. We saw plenty of equity pressure as the dollar was rising. And now, of course, we see the dollar giving it back. Arguably that parabolic has been resolved. So anyone who took some sort of risk reversal in the dollar, your trade is pretty much over. Is there more downside is the question. I see the potential for the dollar to retest this sort of inline trend line. It's arguably anchored off of the most recent move, and it does reflect some previous pivots. If that does form, I don't necessarily have a lot of edge as to how it's going to form, i.e., the dollar, because of its relative strength and some of the dynamics of this marketplace, can push higher first, even though I believe this high is going to be established for a period of time. Basically, I don't think that high is going to be broken anytime soon. Obviously, I could be wrong, but the structure of it tells me that it's pretty well set. Therefore, on the higher time frame, something like a weekly, the question is, if that high is set for now, how wide are the drawdowns in the dollar? And ultimately, what can happen in between? It's a little hard to tell on the short-term basis. Dollar typically will correct anywhere from 4 to 5% high to low. Here's maybe a 3.5 peak. Here's a 4.5. This one's a bit extended, so maybe there's a bit more downside. I'm going to kind of anchor this so I can see the percentage drawdown as a projection. Anywhere from 5% would still be ideal for this rally to continue, albeit it does have a bit of a clock. The rally could see just additional pressure as bears trying to reestablish and re-engage with their dominant thesis of the Fed being unable to pivot and some of the continued pressure in international markets relative to the dollar itself. Obviously, there's some other things to watch on these risk reversals. We talked about the TNX being another risk reversal element. Arguable that this one is also over. If I'm playing short-term risk reversals off of parabolics, I have to respect the fact that when we get to our first trend line, moving average or otherwise, that's it. That's where it could bounce. And as I mentioned, for today's trade, seeing any return on both of these risk elements, the things that kind of put pressure on the market, those are going to probably drive some of the short-term trade as opposed to maybe the medium-term trends, which would be that bear flag scenario back to something like the 50 period on the S&P. And then, of course, I mentioned volatility being a little tricky in this environment. I believe that's still true. You'll notice that right now we're still in a very mild backwardation. Yesterday, we got into a flat curve structure. So if you're looking at product depth on something like vol futures, the thing that bulls want to see from a market dynamic perspective, what can raise the price of the S&P, is often going to be these short-term hedge dynamics. How does the market actually move relative to fundamentals, technicals, and in the case of market dynamic, some things just have to reprice relative to these changes. And I think for volatility future, if I am just looking at the past couple of days, you'll notice here that we're still in this backwardation where front month is priced higher than back month. But as you can see on the red curve, and this is a Monday session, you could even bring it to Tuesday just for a comparison. it was starting to flatten out. And at a certain point in the session, as we continued to rally, it pretty much became flat. I don't think this will show intraday movement, but you know, if you were to model the active contract relative to the future contract, which would be your November, that would of course show that difference. So those dynamics for short-term trade, I think, are going to matter more. And as we kind of look back at the S&P, I want to cover some possible theory here relative to known, I'll just say known schematics. That there's definitely the Wyckoff dynamic here. We're going to talk through this. It's still speculative at this moment, but it has the qualities needed. And, you know, I know we haven't really covered Wyckoff in depth, and that's certainly something that we can look at in the future. But I want to bring up this dynamic because for now, I think trusting this rally is somewhat going to depend on if we can stay outside of our balance range. You know, essentially, if I'm trusting the balance range that we were in for short-term trade, I also have to trust it for getting outside and being bullish. The idea of range expansion is still technically on the table. So I wanted to show what this kind of schematic looks like. And the qualities here are pretty straightforward. Oftentimes you'll see things like selling climaxes after an extended decline. And obviously when the S&P was hitting 363, sure did feel like an extended decline from the 200-day moving average. We see things like these auto reactions and some of the up thrusts that fail, basically come into the lows. And in some cases, you know, arguably this is not perfect, but it did come into our selling climax. And then a bit later, we saw that secondary test in phase B. So as this forms, a lot of traders get kind of chopped up here. And we saw that last week. People were maybe looking for downside after a down session and then got the rally on Wednesday, you know, this move back to the highs. And you certainly see it here. It's the same structure back and forth. We're just seeing the waves, the back and forth range trading that I warned about on last week. It's built for this kind of move. Finally, phase C. And this one is the one that can be adjusted. It has a couple of ways it can form. But I would argue that what we saw on Friday may be that kind of spring structure where obviously we tested June lows and even closed below them, but there wasn't any follow through. You know, ultimately we rallied off of it and it has become a false low for the time being. Obviously phase D as well can be a little tricky here because you see this automatic move or this kind of jumping the creek, which is a little bit of a phrasing, a funny phrase for it, but it's that last point of supply. You know, basically anyone who wanted to sell should be selling through that move, and then new buyers should either be aggressively buying the spring along with buying into new bullish setups, usually off of the auto reaction. So this structure here is something that we kind of talked about in the chat room yesterday because the market had all of the qualities of it. One thing that was a little tricky yesterday is we really didn't see much consolidation. You know, arguably phase D doesn't change too much, but you usually see a bit more setup near the resistance point, and usually that's what provides the fuel to get out of range. It's questionable whether this is needed. It's also questionable whether we're just seeing the sign of strength right now. You know, this little up thrust should be higher than things like your auto reaction. It also should be in line with your preliminary supply, which is somewhere, you know, if I am trusting this model, it should be somewhere in this area. You can kind of see a little bit of challenge to the price here, choppy price activity before we saw that selling climax. And this certainly felt like a waterfall at the time. So, questionable whether we are currently still in phase D or has phase E already started. For now, I'm going to kind of let today's session tell me, and obviously this area is of great importance, because if we lose it, if we lose not only our uptrend, but also come back and crest below 370, then it really calls into question whether this schematic can be trusted. But for now, the qualities of it, the phases of it actually match, and they match very well. Hence, I want to trust this rally for as far as it can go. Ideally, I don't want to fight it too soon until the bulls show me that they're no longer in control and we get into sort of a failed breakout, even just back into balance. And that would, of course, bring us back into that normal trade of high to low until we can crest below the support. So, I know it makes sense throughout this move to be bearish. I know that the move has been dominantly downside driven. Just understand that technicals and market dynamics, both of which are kind of favoring the bulls right now, are stronger. Until we see that correction take place, a really strong give back and basically a failure of this entire setup, it's going to be more challenging. We might see more upthrust. We might see pressure against the against the bears. And ultimately, we're still a bit overextended. If we're talking RSI and MACD, this cycle has just started to come back in. Now, normally, if you're coming off of lows, you want to target the 50. It's, worth mentioning that we did go from low to mid. RSI has completed. But the thing that has me a little bit more optimistic is that the MACD hasn't even crossed yet. So technically, the bullish momentum, even if it is a corrective wave, could be still coming. And, you want to model this off of previous cycles. This is a high to low cycle in the MACD. So what can the S&P do? We could maybe come in and retest and then see more upthrust before seeing that reversion. Be careful being too early, because your risk to reward, unfortunately, can be poor in those moments. Now, I will say that bulls have all the proving to do. Let's be real. Bulls are the ones who have to defend. Bulls are the ones who have to continue to put pressure. And coming off of a low, you're going to see a lot of bear covering, whether it be quarterly reallocation, whether it be new bulls kind of entering the market off of these speculative technicals, and ultimately some of the driving forces and the risk metrics that we just looked at. I think there will be a moment to be bearish again. And when I say bearish, I mean for something significant. I think that is going to be in line with the setup. Just don't be too early to the party. In the same way that you don't want to be bullish too aggressively on downtrends, when they form correctly for corrective moves, you also want to take advantage of them for as long as they last, and then shift your bias when things truly realign back into favor of the bears. Now, for this conversation, I would say that the driving forces here are, one, technical, two, that risk element coming off significantly. It was a big shift. Parabolics into givebacks are big shifts. And I'd keep those on watch. I also think that what we saw in regards to Bank of England intervention, some of the discussions around, can the Fed just pump the brakes on some of their rate hike cycle projections, and ultimately kind of keeping a close eye on what is the market expecting for November. Maybe once a week, just kind of check in here. You'll notice that right now, things are actually elevated relative to that 75-point rate hike. It's been climbing from last week over into now. And that's with the most recent data that we've seen this week. I know we didn't talk much about it given the 2008 correlations, but things like ISM, if I'm shifting over into trading terminal, let this load, and you go to your calendar, there was some data drops this week that are worth mentioning. Let me see how this brings up here. ISM manufacturing came in a little under expectation. If you're looking at actual versus estimates, we came in kind of low. And that is showing that the economic growth is being projected to be weaker moving forward, even relative to some of the estimates, which it was a percentage change, but the estimates were kind of expecting a lower change. They were expecting decline, but not as much. So that kind of drives some decision-making processes, whether the Fed is going to have to potentially intervene a little bit sooner than what the Fed fund futures are dictating. We're also getting a lot of Fed speech over yesterday's session. I would say that overall that didn't affect the price of the market too much. There definitely was more of a bullish lean in most of the session. Then we saw that sort of trend day pullback that was quickly countered. I think a lot of people thought things were going to come off very quickly, and then they quickly reverted. And as I look forward, jobless claims, that's coming out tomorrow. So we'll be able to talk about that a bit more whenever we have the data in hand. But these are just some preliminary data metrics for October. And like we've seen historically this past couple of cycles, these are going to possibly shake up whether or not the projections are accurate or not. They're going to show whether the Fed is hitting certain metrics, and are we actually seeing the data confirm them? And then finally, sort of last but not least, I would say, along with watching sector performance, there are still a few key stocks that are in focus right now. One of them is Tesla. I think you have to be paying attention to what Tesla is doing if you're trying to predict future market movement to any degree. Weakness in Tesla is established. I think this can easily decline further, regardless of what news comes out. I think the stage is set for this one to actually drop further. And stocks like Apple, obviously correlated yesterday and coming off of a pretty important pivot. As I bring this back to a 10-year, I know 150 has been talked about a lot. Another important price to remember is this spike high. If you think about owning Apple over the past 2 years, and you bought this spike high to any degree, under or right at, Apple really hasn't performed over the past 2 years. It's had its ups and downs, but overall, this stock has been more or less in a wide trading range relative to the movement of price. So it's a stock to pay attention to, especially if we start to see true downside selling, which we haven't quite seen yet, but the stage is set. Look at your longer term averages here. They're starting to cross. And unfortunately, we're in a weakened position on one of the largest major tech stocks that we have. So don't play around with those dynamics, especially if you find that they are in favor of one direction. So that's certainly what I'd be watching. Stay tuned for pre-market prep as I kind of round up my time here. Everyone have a great trading session. We'll have more time for questions tomorrow. I know a couple of them came in today. And as always, trade safe. So we'll talk more then.
All right. Good morning, my friends. Welcome to the PreMarket Prep. I hope everyone's having an amazing morning. Hopefully, you guys had an incredible day yesterday. Good morning, Norm. How you doing today?
Hey, good morning, brother. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, my friend. Glad to hear that as
Happy
well.
hump
Hopefully,
day.
hopefully you're feeling a little bit better than yesterday.
Um, Not great, but what can you do?
Yeah,
It's life. It
I,
is what it is. So no big deal, but I appreciate it.
I hear you 100%, man. Um, let's
At least my hair looks better. Thanks, guys.
let's see here. I'm pulling up my YouTube chat because it closed on me. So 1 second, so we don't miss out on what's happening here.
Hot
Um,
lemonade. I've not heard of this one.
Hot lemonade. That's the first for me too, man.
I've heard of
Um,
ginger in lemon water, hot, but not lemonade itself.
yeah, no, have
Oh,
first for me as well.
interesting.
Uh, all right, guys, let's get to it.
All
Our
right.
list yesterday. Let's take a look at our gappers that we had. We had Rivian, Tesla, AMD, Apple, Baba, and Amazon yesterday. A lot of these were trading very similar, but slight differences in some of these. Especially the EVs were very very active yesterday. As you took advantage of some of that move. And again, we continue to mention, those first couple of minutes could be brutal. We saw that on Rivian, we saw that on Tesla yesterday. Neo, not as much, but again, just very, very tough trading at the open. And then it got so clean after, guys. I mean, just look how beautiful Rivian trades here, breaks out of this messy situation. And becomes really an amazing trending stock there. Tesla, same thing, guys. In the morning here, this struggle to figure out what are we doing next, and then it breaks out, and it does give you a nice little push up here. Then we got the crazy drop here that happened on Tesla. You also saw this on Neo a little bit, not as aggressive. I mean, this is a $10 drop there. I saw Ed was trading live in the room around 12:30, 1 o'clock, and so was Thor, and they both got an amazing entry. I think somewhere around here they caught this drop. So great job, guys. They rolled this all the way up here. I know Thor finished adding some more to this. So a lot of you guys, Marvy saying he also caught that too. Yes, just a great job there on catching that bounce. AMD and some of the semis also were very active, and not as clean as the EVs were yesterday. At AMD, you can see here a little bit of a struggle. Did trade a little better in the half part of the day. Same thing with Apple. Just look at the struggle here on Apple. Not clean compared to what it did yesterday. I was looking at Baba. It did finally break out, but again, there was some other opportunities like Neo, which I traded that were much, much better. Amazon, by the way, I have not looked at this. This looks really good. This was actually pretty clean here. So if you're paying attention to Amazon, that did well. But we had Neo on deck. Neo also a little bit of a struggle here to get started, like many of the EVs. But look at this nice pop later as we break out of this messy situation here. So that's what we had yesterday. Today, not a whole lot on the gap up list. We're flipping sides now. Everything on the downside this morning, a lot of red on the screen, and we have just a couple of things that are green that are not really great traders, except for JD. JD, I know that can at times can trade better. It's not what it used to be, but once in a while it can do some pretty good stuff. So we'll get into that. We'll see what's moving those tickers. Any major news? I see fingers back down at 11.2. That's the low flush, been making a lot of noise lately. So we'll see what's happening there. But let's go over to our market pulse. Norm, what's the latest and greatest for today?
Yeah, man, we just had the ADP employment report come out. It came out at 208,000, roughly in line with what was expected at 200,000. International trade balance just came out as well. Didn't hear that number. Not really doing anything. S&P Services PMI, the final read is at 945, and then the ISM Services Index is at 10. And then right at the close, Atlanta Fed President will be speaking. We've come off the two biggest days gains, the biggest 2 day gain in the SPY in a year and a half, since I believe April of 2020. So not surprising to see a little bit of a pullback here. We'll see how the market reacts today. The big news today that is actually not one of these, because it is not a data point that's on the technical U.S. economic calendar, is OPEC Plus meeting that was supposed to be virtual like they often do, and then they called at the last minute for everybody to rush to Vienna, Austria. They're meeting in person today, and they're going to come out with an announcement that's anticipated. They're going to announce a drawdown of what they're producing. That's already baked in a little bit, but the talk is anywhere from 500,000 to 2 million barrels a day to pull back to help support prices as they've fallen from their highs a couple of months ago. We'll see when that comes out and they announce what they're going to do, how the market reacts to that, if it has much of a reaction, if people already have weighed that into their pricing. Yeah, so let's see.
Yeah, we'll see how that's gonna play out for sure. All right, guys, let's get to our gappers list this morning. And I'm thinking about
Just
that.
remind,
Yeah.
some of the fastest, hardest rallies are in bear markets. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Oh yeah, we've seen a few of those that are very, very aggressive. All right, guys, let's look here. SHFS. This is a low flow at 8.6. Not really doing a whole lot right now. Volume is extremely light. I mean, this looks very crappy at the moment. Not sure what's going on with this daily. Yeah, I got no hopes for this at all. I'm not sure what the news is, but
yeah, this one I didn't dig in too deep. This is a regional bank that's based in Colorado, de-SPAC'd in June. It is a bank specific to the cannabis industry. So, as we all know, some of those, the weed stores and weed businesses have trouble banking with traditional banks. So, this is specific to them. That having been said, the action looks terrible on it. So, I really haven't put a ton of time into it.
Yeah.
The spread is nasty. The spread is 30 cents on a $6, $7 stock. So,
yeah,
no,
it's
thank
just
you.
brutal. And just there's no volume whatsoever on this thing. So not for us. Let's look at tops here this morning. This is it could be a high flyer. This comes up once in a while that they're doing some stuff and moving. I don't like the way it trades. I think it could be very risky. So I'm not a fan of this at all. Today they look like they have 330,000 shares traded, but yesterday it looks like that there was some action here. Again, I just don't like the way this thing trades. We've seen it quite a bit on our gappers list. JD here, guys. This is up 2.6, and I don't see any other stocks that's similar to this one up this morning by 2.7, 2.6. Norm, what's the news on JD today?
Well, they've been down a lot, but I guess yesterday their founder, it was announced their founder settled some rape allegations out of court. So I guess
that's good news.
The founder not going to prison for rape is a bonus.
Yeah, I guess it's good news for the company. I just don't see how that plays out. But madness. Either way, they're gapping up 2.6. Not sure how that's going to trade.
Looks pretty terrible this morning.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And that's not a catalyst. I think it's going to make this a high flyer anyway. So I'm not a fan. Let's remove this here so we don't get confused. Control A, Control X. There we go. We got nothing on the list yet, guys. Let's see what's gapping down, where we seem to have most of the stuff happening this morning. ATVX is down 18% this morning. 222,000 shares traded right now. I mean, this thing is just wild, man. I don't want to touch this at all. I don't want it on my list. If you're trading this, just be careful. I just don't see how my strategies that can be applied to this, the way this ticker is trading. So down today after a couple of days here, and this thing loves to sell off. Gapped up, sold off, gapped up here, sold off, recovered a little bit, and today we're gapping down. So careful on that one. We've been talking about this a finger motion for a while as well. Again, just be careful. And this is the one with no news, right, Norm? This is the one that has no news whatsoever. Why it's gapping up?
It really hasn't. Correct.
Yeah, so it's even worse. Let's head down over to Carvana. They're down 3.7. This ticker trades very light unless they have some really big catalyst or big news. So I usually stay away from it. I'm going to do the same today. I don't see anything that looks overly exciting on this thing other than trying to hit some of these levels down here. But I think this is just overall market movement at the moment, right? So I have better tickers I can look at to follow the overall market moves that we're seeing. AMC making some noise here. Just for gapping down really, but not a whole lot of volume looking at it now. So again, AMC, guys, this is a ticker. We had the question yesterday, if you guys remember, what are we looking for in volume? 259 on any other ticker, like, I don't know, maybe like a Billy. Billy will be a good one, right? It will be a lot of volume, not an AMC. AMC, you need hundreds of thousands of shares in this. You need like, 800,000 by now to really make it worth your while. We're not seeing that here. XBEV and NEO have both been very, very active. XBEV is down a 2.9. NEO has been actually really good to me the last couple of days. So I'll probably watch NEO again today on my list. I'm going to put this one on here instead of XBEV. Speaking of this NEO, XBEV, Tesla, of course, is going to
Yeah,
be.
that was going to be one I was going to throw.
Yeah, of course. It's not on the list here. I don't see it. It's slightly
It
under.
was, yeah, it's just slightly under the 2% threshold.
Yeah, but this is on deck already this morning. 1.1 million shares traded. The issue I have with Tesla is how volatile it can be at times, but it is trading amazing, guys. So if you're able to trade this properly, definitely have it on deck.
The other concern, and you really have to watch out on that right now, is breaking news on it, because obviously with the Twitter deal and the drama that went down with that over the last few months, and then yesterday. Some people had been saying that he'd sold enough Tesla stock to cover it, that everything was good, and then it kind of came out that he still needs a chunk more to get it done. And with the debt markets and the condition they are and interest rates where they are, he might have to sell some more. So if something happens to come out on that, it could move very quickly one way or the other, frankly. He could come out and say he doesn't need to sell any. He could tweet a poo emoji. I don't know.
Yeah.
So just watch out on that.
Definitely follow Elon Musk on Twitter to get the latest and greatest on this. Here is Twitter. Someone mentioned that, just to take a look at it. Big day yesterday, 41 to 52. So they did actually move very nice. This could be in play today. Twitter definitely on deck this morning. We'll put on a 2.5 already so far, and slightly down, but yeah, this will be in play today. All right, heading down our list here, Coin and Mara. Again, I think they're just not great at the moment, so I'm gonna put them aside for now. GM, it's got some volume, but not the best intraday trader. I think we could find something better. Ford yesterday actually traded a decent. Not great, but decent,
man,
right?
You're taking all my call outs.
Sorry, man. So you have Ford on deck, right? This morning. Yeah.
Only because of the miserable rest of the list, but Morgan Stanley upgraded them to overweight from equal weight, and that's part of the GM story too. They're lowered their price target over there on GM. So I don't like trading Ford. I don't like trading $12 tickers, but there's kind of a lack of other things that are all that interesting at the moment.
Yeah, agreed. And their price action yesterday, I'm telling you, was actually really clean, really nice. So Ford on the list here. I prefer them over GM for sure at times. So let's see. Riot and Mara, they could be hit or miss, and Coin. So I don't have them on here. Although Coin seems to look somewhat decent this morning. But yeah, maybe a possible on Coin. So there seems to be some kind of action. They had a good day yesterday, down 3% this morning, 200,000 so far. Let's put that on a possible for now. CCL had a drop a few days ago, had a nice pop yesterday. Again, they actually been trading well. I saw a lot of you guys taking some really nice trades off of this yesterday, and I think it was the day before when they had the nice drop. So not sure what they're going to do today. They could be a hit or miss, but they definitely been getting some really great volume early in the pre-market. We're seeing that again today. 841,000 shares traded. That is amazing volume for CCL. So yeah, put them on deck for now as a possible. Only as a possible, because you really got to wait for the market open to see if this thing is going to be in play. Obviously, a lot of negative news around them. As Nor, you've been mentioning this thing, right? Just bankruptcy and whatever. It's just not good for them. And we'll see what plays out there. Okay, let's stop here. Norm, not sure why I have an alarm now. Give Amanda Motrin. Okay, that's my daughter. I don't know why I gotta give her Motrin. I don't know. That must have been. I'm not sure. Okay. Let me mute this. Norm, anything you like on your end that I have not called out for you already?
No, you've ruined it already.
I've ruined it, man. Sorry. Let's take it to a room. But before we do that, guys, over on YouTube, if you haven't done it already, hit that thumbs up. We appreciate it very much. It does help us out a whole lot here. We have 71 likes already. We'd love to be above 200, 250. Let's go to the chat. Alfredo, Twitter is on deck. Yes, 2.6 million shares traded. And just look at the madness on this thing. Yesterday here is just insane. Did it get halted? It got halted, right?
Well, it got halted for news for hours.
For news, right? Yeah. So there's the halt for news for
It got
hours.
halted on the pop. I think it got a volatility halt, and then halted on news too.
News, yeah. So, looking good there, guys. Should be in play today. That's on deck. Tesla's on deck as well.
I'm gonna disagree with you. Unless news breaks, I don't see Twitter doing a whole lot. It's an arbitrage trade at this point.
Yeah.
The price is 54.20, so they're pricing in about 8% downside. 6-8% that the deal won't go through.
I think there's still some madness around this ticker. I think it's gonna be some meme action to it that makes no sense. This is what I'm betting on. But again, you're absolutely right. We won't know until the market open. But let's see. Definitely some good volume right now. We'll see how that's gonna play out to open. Daughter can't wait. No, I think that was when Gary. That's when she got sick over the vacation. We were giving her Motrin. She got a fever. It was pretty bad. So I don't know why it's coming up today though. But she's all better now. All good. All right, Snap. Snap. Let's see what's happening here. They got an overweight. They've got an upgrade. Volume is slight on Snap. Snap is a great example. By the way, 291. It's not good volume for Snap. They trade a lot more than that.
It is nicey though, so it could pick up after the open.
Yeah, it's a good point. The daily looks interesting, by the way, too. Yesterday's action
and
today.
That's the other thing is
right.
That's a pretty decent upgrade. I didn't see what bank did it. Let me see.
Barclays.
Barclays. Okay, yeah. That's a reasonable bank. It's not no name state. But they've come up. This ticker on Friday, opened or during the day on Monday was around 950.
Yeah.
You're already up 15%, something like that. So.
Yeah, how much upside do you have left, right?
And then you come in this morning, everything down, SPY down 1%, everything else, so it could hold it down a little bit. I think it could be interesting later.
Yeah. We'll have to see at the market open. Maybe we'll move this down to a possible, depending on how our list continues here. But right now, we're looking at a pretty decent list so far. What else guys have this morning? AMD. I see Eamon already has his watch list out. Is AMD. AMD looks interesting. Yeah. Down 1.5 right now. And again, we're going to go into our usual suspects probably now. So it's going to be AMD. Apple wasn't great at the open yesterday. But again, a little bit less volume than what we've seen in the last couple of days. Still, again, no matter, Apple's still a good one to watch here and there. NVIDIA is another one you can add to your list. I'm just going to keep AMD and Apple for today. But there's some other good ones you can add as we move forward here. Let's take a look at our YouTube chat. What do you guys have this morning? Healy, lower guidance. I don't think we've seen this one. HELE. Heli? No.
It doesn't trade very well.
No. Helen of Troy? No.
Yeah, Helen of Troy. I believe they might have had earnings they had earnings this morning, but it's just doesn't trade very well in general.
Yeah. Does not look good today. AMD, we have it on deck. Yeah, pre-market action, I agree, Christian. It does look very active. Twitter. Yeah, Twitter might be more of a possible depending on how, we got to see how this thing's going to play out at the market open, as Norm mentioned. GM. We looked at GM earlier, as Norm mentioned, with Ford. They're also somewhat in play today. I prefer Ford. It could be Gem State today, man. It could be they had a good trading day yesterday, looks like. Yeah, they did very well yesterday. Maybe a possible. We don't have a whole lot to not have a reason to not keep this on the list. So let's put it as a possible for now. They got great volume, 1.2 million. It's pretty good. All right, I think we're covered, guys. We have covered everything you guys have thrown out here. Let's go ahead to community events and announcements. We'll come back and fine-tune this list in just a bit.
All over on YouTube saying Twitter has large order limit at between 54-20. It doesn't surprise me at all. Those are anybody that if I had any Twitter shares, I'd have my order in there too, instead of having to wait. If it happens to pop there, unload it. You don't have to wait to make sure the deal comes through. So
yeah, it makes perfect sense. Guys, over on the webpage, bearwithtrace.com, webinars, you can catch up with what's coming up for the next 2 weeks.
All right. Every Monday onboarding with your man Carlos right there, 8 p.m. Eastern, especially for newer traders. Come in, get started with BBT. Tuesday, strategy. This is Wednesday. So Thor next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, talking about VPA and the win. And then I don't know why your picture's not up there with your glorious beard, Carlos, but on the 18th at 8 p.m., talking about the basics of trading the opening range break strategy. Excuse me. Tonight, 8 p.m., you've got Dr. Kenneth Reed talking about bear market psychology. This is a perfect week for this webinar. The market performed perfectly for Dr. Reed. I'm curious if he just how he timed that so right, but don't get fooled again. And then next week, Creda at 5 p.m. Eastern is going to be talking about discovering your inner demons through self-reflection. Thursday is for mentoring, 11 a.m. with John, 4 p.m. with Ed, and 8 p.m. with Thor. Trading Terminal, don't forget about tradingterminal.com. This is our free portal. It is growing. It is improving. Things are being added to it. It is a really cool place. And within there, you can find the simulator, or you can go to stocktradingsimulator.com. It's our free web-based replay simulator. Oh, yeah, show them the scanners. You got scanners in there, guys. This is for scanners. There you go. So that's our list right there. I don't know why Chef's sitting on there. It might be a float issue or something. Not sure. Anyway, that is our free scanners up all day. And then our stocktradingsimulator.com, our free web-based replay simulator, where you can hone your trading skills 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for free. All right. If you're watching on YouTube, haven't been in the chat, you can use the promo code PreMarket24 to get a discount off the intro membership. That is a no obligation one-time payment. Does not recur. And it gives you 7 calendar days, 5 trading days in the room. And then also, if you'd like to become Elite member, you can use the promo code READ50 to get a half off the Elite annual and a free one-on-one coaching session with Dr. Kenneth Reed.
All right. Thank you very much, Norm. Jay, longtime viewer over on YouTube, has a question. What stocks do me and you watch consistently that are the cleanest to trade? Good supply, demand levels that tend to adhere to. There's a few, man. I know that usually on the tech side, there's a few that we watch on a regular basis. And if you look at the, there was a member of the community, I don't remember his name, but he was putting together all the stuff that we had on our watch. Like he had a spreadsheet of a couple of weeks and months of my watch list, Andrew's watch list, and he just was just kind of collecting them and kind of had a tally, and the similar names came up, and NASA's has some of this on here, Apple, Nvidia, AMD, similar names came up that we watch on a regular basis, and because they get the volume, the liquidity is always great, the spread is great, they're always active, right? Are they going to be good traders that day? Maybe not, because they depend a lot on the market, not every day, but for the most part, like if I had to pick one single stock to watch, it'll be Apple. I mean, Apple's always moving.
And they change over time too. I mean, we'll go 6-8 months a year and AMD will trade well. 2018, AMD traded like garbage, and Micron, MU, traded great for a long period of time. It was on our watch list almost every day. And then that changed, and now AMD is good and MU is not. Apple really is one that is pretty consistently a great trader for years. Yeah.
You guys remember SQ? SQ used to be on our list every day.
All the time.
All the time. It's not the same ticker anymore. JD was on that list every day. And then we had
Roku.
When Bitcoin first came out, not Bitcoin, blockchains. Remember the blockchain stuff first came out? And Kodak. Was it Kodak? It was just a mess of, I don't even know what the ticker is for Kodak. But we had that going on. Then we had the EVs. What is that?
I think it's KODK off the top of my head.
I think you're right. Yeah. This was heavily in play with a bunch of other blockchain companies. I mean, it's just, you go through the seasons, but you got your main ones like Apple that tend to stick around for a lot longer than these other ones. So, hopefully that answers that question. Let's get to our watch list here and start doing some levels, guys, starting with Neo. Speaking of another one that's starting to come back into the deck here, we used to trade EVs heavily. We have not traded NEO as much in the past few months, but lately they've been very active, as you can see here on the daily the last couple of days. So on my list today, we have NEO high 17. Man, we got a nice pop really early on. I was just looking at this here. 1723 has sold off from there since the morning, but in play today, good volume so far. I have Tesla on here, which is going to be incredible. Just again, watch your size on this one. Twitter is dropping here quite a bit. We'll have to see how the market open treats Twitter. Ford, usually not on deck, but today and yesterday was a great day, and today looking good as well. I think Snap is more of a possible here, guys. Especially what Norm mentioned too about it popping up already about 14 to 13% here. I don't know how much juice is left here, especially with the market going the other way on this one. I like the daily, but I think it's really more of a possible. Maybe if it hits the scanners, we can get some opportunities on Snap. And AMD, I like AMD here. And I'm going to move Apple because things are starting to trend down slightly. And as we just mentioned, Apple, AMD, NVIDIA, these are great tickers to trade with the market. When the market is trending, they tend to follow the market very well. The other question we got around this too is, why watch AMD, Apple, and NVIDIA if they're all, let's say we're watching NVIDIA here, if they're all going to be trading similar? You'd be surprised. There are times where even though the market's trending down, for example, we had a situation not so long ago where AMD did not want to sell off, right? And Apple and NVIDIA sold off really nice with the market, and AMD just kept holding. It kept being choppy. So although they trade very similar, there might be times for whatever reason, if they're at a level, for example, AMD could be at a level of support that's taking a little bit of a hard time breaking through. The other two can trade a lot better. So that's why we will watch something like this, right? In case you're wondering. Then possibilities of Snap here, Coin, CCL, been really good the last 3 days, and GM as well. For 1723 on NEO. Again, nice big pop this morning. Could not hold that, obviously. We are back down to the previous day close, and below that is the low of the pre-market at 1667. Let's get some older levels out of here. Here we go. 1667, and then our pre-market high over at 1723. Once we put that down towards the bottom, I think you're pretty much taken care of. I'm going to look towards the top here. This 1723 is going to take care of this area here, which you're seeing a little bit of support and resistance. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. Then towards the top, you might have something at 1764, and right up here, definitely. This is the main level because you got so much going on here at 1821. So that's a good one for you to keep on deck. Heading now over to Tesla. Tesla, again, continues to be extremely active. Keep in mind, look out for news on this. Obviously, with Twitter, this gets affected depending on what Elon has to do there. 247.46 high of the pre-market, and 244 is your low of your pre-market right now. So you got a nice range there. Zoom out, look at the bigger picture. You're kind of stuck here between the highs and lows of the last 2 trading days, a little bit towards the bottom half of this middle point. You do have the previous day close towards the top there. So I think you got plenty of levels. I don't think you need to add anything else just besides the highs and lows of the pre-market at the moment. Once we break out of this range, if we do decide to do that, then we can go to the left and get some more levels towards the bottom or towards the top if we need to. But right now, I think you're pretty much set. Don't make it more complicated than what it needs to be. Here's Twitter. Again, insane action yesterday based on news. Low of the pre-market now, 51.17. You got your previous day close up here at 52, and slightly above that, 52.10 is your pre-market high, right? So this obviously changes the way the technicals on this thing a little bit as far as levels. We are hitting the highs we had before when news came out of the agreement, right? If you guys remember this back in April, we had this pop. We're right back around that price area. And I do recall some of these days, even though you see the movement was very difficult to trade. So Twitter might not be your normal trading stock today. Keep that in mind if you find yourself getting stopped out. It's just not seeing the patterns that you're used to. 49.35, a good level towards the bottom here. So it's going to pick some big ones off. I'm not going to go into every single detail here, but 47.29, another good one towards the bottom as well. And we have 45.42. So basing it on this consolidation that we had here on a couple of days, I think you got some pretty good levels there on Twitter for now. So Ford, let's take a look at Ford. Had a good day yesterday. Going to remove some of this. Actually, these are still pretty good. 13. If we do go up this, I don't think that's going to happen. But we got some levels there just in case. We'll leave that there. 1275 is the high of the pre-market. And once you put the high of the pre-market, you look towards the bottom and you're pretty much taking care of their highs and lows for the last 2 trading days are doing a great job. Previous day close, I don't think you need to add anything more to that. Looking at AMD, again, very similar action is going to be on AMD. You got Apple and you got NVIDIA, right? They all kind of have, although NVIDIA dropped a lot sooner because they had that issue, if you guys remember, with what not being, was it here? Not being able to sell to some chips to China, if I remember correctly. So they dropped a lot sooner than some of these other ones, like you see Apple and AMD, right? But they've all been just in this downtrend. We're finding a little bit of a base here. So you're going to have the same daily type action. On NVIDIA, you're stuck between the highs and lows of the last 2 trading days. So don't need to do much here. High of the pre-market, again, very close to the previous day close, which is a more important level. But we'll mark it down, 131.46. The low of the pre-market, I'm going to leave this open for now because we're dropping and just kind of creating that new low right now. We do have a level coming up around 128.76, which is your low from yesterday. So we'll come back to that. Outside of this, if you look at the bigger picture, guys, you're all set. Highs and lows of the last 2 trading days. If we do come back up here, we can put some levels towards the top, just in case we're looking to break out. 134.56 is nice. 138.13 is another good one. You have this one up here, 140.31. So you got some pretty good levels up here that we have tested quite a bit in the past that look pretty nice. So you're all set there on NVIDIA. Couple of possible snap coin. Let's see how that's looking. Still not great. CCL looks pretty choppy right now, but their volume is there though. You got 1 million shares traded on CCL, which is nice. That is what you want to see. So keep a close eye on CCL. That could be our top possible for today. If it does the moves that it's been doing the last couple of days, had a nice drop 2 days ago and I believe the day before, and then trading days, and then yesterday had a nice pop. Let's see if today we can get something going here. But yeah, looking good right now as far as volume. Not so much pre-market activity, but 1 million shares traded is pretty good for CCL. So close eye on that one, just in case we can get something going. All right, we got a pretty decent list. Anything that we might have missed, guys, that you guys like this morning? Anything that might be looking good? I see some moderators coming in with their list. We have Eamon, we have Peter, we have Jared. So I'll read those out to you in a second. We got a little bit of time for questions or to look at something else. Sid, yeah, the Qs. Yeah, you can watch the Qs, of course. Well, this will be in play. TQQ, SQQ, you know, all these ETFs. I don't put them on my list, but we know what they are, right? So you could definitely keep an eye on those as well. They'll be active as the market continues to trend and make some pretty significant moves. XPEF, let's see. XPEF. What do we have here? We are down 3.3. I decided to put NEO instead of XPEF, but XPEF is down pretty nice here. How did it trade yesterday? What did we do? Let's go to XPEF yesterday. Let's go see what we got here. All right, so yeah, rough start. Not as clean as a lot of other tickers we had on deck, right? They get better at second half of the day here. Nice drop, but man, not as clean as like a NEO that I had on deck, right? So if you look at NEO, this was much cleaner. Not saying that today cannot trade well. Maybe I'm gonna put them as a possible, but I'm gonna go with NEO on this one for today. So. But yeah, XPEF as a possible for now. I like the daily as well. So I know you guys are looking at this daily. It does look good. Volume is good as well. So a lot going on there this morning. PCG. Why do I remember this ticker from? PCG, Pacific Gas. Oh, this is a company that burned down or has outages. I forget. In California. Is this that company? That's years ago, man, right? If I remember correctly, they had a huge drop. I think it could have been done back in 2019. Either way, PCG here, guys. They're not a great trader, man. I've seen this stock before. They don't trade very well, so I'm not a fan of keeping them on deck. Look at this 1.4 million shares traded. I mean, how does that pre-market look to you? It doesn't look good. So that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Yesterday they had a nice pop. Looks like they trade very well yesterday without seeing the price action here. Very light volume though. What's this? It did it 59. Wow, 356. What is the volume is going on here? So yeah, I'm not sure about this one, man. Just be careful if you're going to be watching this one here. You'll be happy to hear that Apple is being forced to sell iPhones in Europe with USB-C. Jason, I am very happy to hear that news. We need to pass that here very soon as well. We need to follow up what Europe is doing. Good job, Europe, on forcing those guys to be smart. Oxy popping up. Oxy, oh yeah, Oxy's getting some good stuff happening here. Oxy, I had it on a possibles yesterday. I didn't trade it. Oh, thank God I didn't. Look at this thing. It's nasty yesterday. So nice to see there. The day before, same thing. It didn't look great. Oxy's has not been all that exciting lately. And we see that on the daily as well. But getting some action here. Any news coming out on Oxy? I'm going to put them as a possible because most likely we will need to give it a little more time anyway to see what this is all about. But yeah, we're going from red to green with some nice volume, almost 50,000 shares traded here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Roku. I like the lightning cable because my Samsung family can't route my cable. See, Jack Cat is the only reason why I would agree with you there. But no. We need to change this. This is ridiculous. Roku. Roku. I don't know about Roku, Abdu. Roku, I'm not sure. What are you seeing here quickly? Maybe I'm missing something. They don't have volume today. I don't think they have any news right now. So yeah, I don't see this as a good one for the market open. If it gets some volume, there's some news maybe. But yeah, they have not really been in play lately. They're just kind of moving with the overall market and not great neither. Look at it yesterday. This is very, very choppy, very difficult to trade that type of price action. So we'll see. Yeah, all Apple devices sold everywhere in the world be forced to USB-C starting late 2024. Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's just, it just makes sense, right? It just makes sense. XOM. Okay, so XOM and Oxy both popping up. So it's the oil news came out. Did I miss oil cut price from OPEC? Did that come out already? I didn't think that was going to be announced just yet, right? So I don't know if that news is out like that. Okay, very good. So yeah, but I like Oxy. Oxy's good. Let's see how this is going to go. You can look at XOM, some other place you can look at MRO, some other ones on there that you can look at for oil type place. But Oxy is really the one I like the most. So I'm going to keep that one as a possible and see if that does anything today. All right, 910. Let's get our moderators list here, guys. Sitting at 147 likes. Let's see if we could bump that up to 200. I'll really appreciate it, guys. It does help out the channel a whole bunch. So if you could just take the time, take that mouse over to that thumbs up, and we'll appreciate you guys very, very much. Let's bring this over here, and let me stop this video so you guys don't get that mirror effect, although it doesn't look too bad. But let's do this. We'll stop that here, and yeah, we'll be good to go. Let's move this up and see who was first. Eamon. So Eamon already set up his potential short for today. He is looking at AMD. Peter is looking at AMD, Apple, Twitter, and secondary the CCL, Ford, and JD. No IPOs, no SPACs for today. Jared will be looking at Tesla and Apple, Google, and secondary, whatever looks the most fun. That should be interesting. Heading down to Susan, she's looking at Apple, Tesla, and the SPY overall market. And then secondary list Oxy, Amazon, and Neo for Susan. So we'll wait for more moderators to throw their lists out here. In the meantime, let's see what you guys, anything you guys like that we might have not taken a look at. CHPH. Was that active 2 days ago or something? CHPH up 16%. Yeah, man, this is Shuttle Pharmaceuticals. Look at this. This is probably what I remember this from. Look at this madness. IPO'd on, was this IPO date? Yeah, I think it is. IPO'd here probably at whatever dollars. Shot up to 90. Following day gaps up to 110, 130, and then we're at $4. How does this happen? Who's buying this stuff at 130? Yeah, you think about this. For every transaction, there's a buyer and there's a seller, right? Who in their right mind is buying this thing at 120? I know it's not you guys because you guys are very smart traders, but who's doing this? That you got to DM me. What's going? I need a reason why you're buying this at 130, because I need to figure this out. I just don't. Whoa, just don't understand. I will never understand that. You know, I just don't get it. I need some answers. Email me carlos@bearwithtrust.com if you bought this thing at 1:30. We have to have a conversation. We really do. Maybe an interview live on YouTube on what went wrong there. All right, so we're all set, guys. Book club today at 2 p.m. Don't miss that. Trading in the Zone, Chapter 10. So I hear a lot of great stuff about that. I should join that too. Ed was talking about that yesterday. Had a great presentation at in the chat yesterday about risk management. If you guys missed it, I'm sure the recording's probably out, but definitely catch that. Really, really good. Okay, excellent. Same people who bought TRY at 300 in September. I agree, CJ. And Hunt, whoever bought Hunt at whatever price that was. It's just madness. Megan AMD Neo on her watch list. Oh, not today. Excuse me. Book club is tomorrow. Correction. The book club is tomorrow at 2. All right. What else do we have, guys? Okay, we're all set. 9:14, guys. I'm going to hand it off to our main guys here, Brian and Andrew, to take us through the open. Hopefully, it's an easier open than it was yesterday. And just keep in mind, guys, you could wait a little bit because, man, the open didn't treat us as well. It was very, very choppy on some of these tickers. And then days like the sun came out and everything started trading amazing. So, you know, if you see yourself stopping out a couple of times, take a quick break, give it time for things to develop and take advantage of the moves that can happen. Brian's list, KIT, KITT, SQ, JD, and Tesla. Let's take a look at KITT. This is a low flow of the day. What's the float on this? This looks nice. KITT. 30 million shares flow. So not huge, but not too bad. So, but yeah, in play, very careful. That'll be the risky stock of the day today. KITT. Gonna add that right on here. All right, perfect. All right, guys, last chance to hit that thumbs up. We're at 178. We were so close to 200. Help us get there. And have an amazing trading day, guys, today. Wednesday, middle of the week. Let's see how these stocks are going to play out. SPY at the moment is, what are we? We're slightly down 1.2 right now, 1%. So let's see, because it's going to be an interesting day, to say the least. All right, good morning, Brian. I'll hand it over to you over on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you very much. We will see you again tomorrow. Today's psychology at 8 p.m. in our chat and our members, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate that for the reminder. All right, guys, take care. Trade safe.